Hello, I'm Paul Wilkinson and we're filming from my Kathmandu home where I've been based for the last 7 years making documentaries about shamanism and about ritual objects and Nepali culture. Today I'd like to show you a whole load of Magar Shaman objects with the related symbolism. So we have the images of the tam or temple. We've got these incredibly rare 5-sided bells, and we've got oil lamps, and you can see there's a sort of crossover in their relationships, and then we've got some number symbolism stuff going on as well with the central guru figure like Ganesh here, and the four shaman around the outside of the temples here and on the bells, and these lotus symbolisms as well. So I'll run through each object and then start pointing out the connections between stuff. So here we have a temple with a shaman blowing a conch with his feather headdress, and you've got shaman with various objects. There should be another one really on this corner, sat with, I don't know what that is, whether it's an instrument or a gun. There's a book, that might be a gun as well, pointing outwards. A conch, tridents on every side, birds. These are oil lamps, and there should really be on every corner, but this is extremely old. You can see where it's got that accretion of oil and offerings and corrosion all over it. So it sat on the elephant for wisdom. This would have originally had a base as well. And so you've got the teaching going on in this arch shape. So sometimes you have bells and other objects where this arch is like a doorway into the transcendent world. The tridents are like a Shiva symbolism, but they're also for time, for past, present and future, and for the Kundalini, for the triple energy going up the back. So You've got this elephant figure with this amazing temple. So picking up on the same symbolism, you've got an elephant with Ganesh in the middle with a lotus and a conch, and then shaman reading and playing bells and with a oil lamp and a sword. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe offerings, or I don't know. Maybe that's the symbols, like the bit like tingshaws maybe. On here, on the lotus flower, and then Ganesh. You can see it's been repaired with forged iron. The original piece is bronze, and then that's also an oil lamp. So they would like this to activate the spirit within the object. So you've got this sort of repeated, very interesting symbolism. And then here's an extremely old shaman figure, again from Magar Shaman, with a trident, a sword of some sort. I'm not sure what that object is. And then another hand. Sometimes you get these with the forearms, and I've yet to find out what that's about. And then wearing the different malas, and the ritual hat and the belt. So most bells are just a single bell, but there's this style of 5-pieced bells you get occasionally in the Magar. This is the biggest one I've ever had. I mean, the really extraordinary thing here is you find these about once every 10 years, and there's a number of them on the table. The reason I'm doing this video is a few things came to me very recently, and I'm just absolutely blown away with it. I have a lot of shaman actually helping me in the work because they know that I'm interested and they want to share their knowledge. So you've got these harmonically tuned And you can see you've got this tremendous sculptural form as well, where this has been cast in two pieces. The whole thing is made with the lost wax technique, and at the top part is a lotus that would act as an oil lamp, and then with the lotus buds around. And although really looks like a lotus, I only just figured it. So the other day I just was looking at them, and this spell came to me, and I suddenly figured it out. Of course, this is a bud, and these are flowers. And suddenly you can see, and they're like with the Ganesh holding there. So now I need to really have a think about what does it mean to be having the fire in the lotus, the fire lotus. So literally the light of enlightenment being a flame is very, very interesting symbolism. So you've got the four figures praying, looking out at the four corners. So you quite often have, when I've worked with Gurung shaman and Sherpa shaman and Rai shaman, they quite often have a process where they send the energy into the different directions, either 4 directions or 8 directions, and the shaman themselves becomes like the center of the mandala, where they're tuning into the environment. And you often have rings of temples in like a sacred landscape. So there's a part of, actually Nepal in general is like this. The landscape becomes is full of temples or full of sacred places or sacred mountains like Mount Kailash, and the head of Shiva is Pashupatinath, and the forehead is it Muktanath. And you have the idea of the bodies of gods laying in the landscape and the sacred environment. So the shaman becomes like the center of a mandala and feels out into the environment whether everything is okay, and then they get the information back from the nature gods and from the different temples. So again, I've actually never had a bell that was this form in the 25 years I've been doing this. Very, very interesting. So you've got this bud, the 5 bells for the centre and for the directions. The circular design here also, sometimes I've seen this as the legs of the shaman, but it probably has a symbolism for the void. So quite often the bell is seen as the feminine and the clapper is seen as the masculine, and having these circular pieces would also have another meaning. Little traces of ribbon, a little bit like with the Ferber, where you have the ribbon is quite often like a symbol for the rainbow. So this is an extraordinary piece. Again, something so absolutely extraordinary. I've never had anything quite like this before. You can see it's absolutely coated in the remains of oil and bits of offerings and things. You've got a female figure giving birth here and it would have had 4. This possibly a representation of Kali. The other 3 figures are missing. Then you've got this sort of mandalic form with like the bulb of a lotus again, and then this 5-sided top and a little shaman figure that is attached by a forged hook around the top here. Again, I've never had anything quite like that before. This, I think there would be 4 figures and the other 3 missing. And then you've got a temple in the inside of the lotus with a god figure inside. This would have had a door, you can see. It's still got the bolt and the top to fasten. So it would have had a door that has long since been lost. And forged and made in a number of pieces, but I'm half tempted to try and recast the missing pieces. It would be very nice if it were complete. Obviously you can't, with an old piece like this, you can't tamper with it, but you could take a mould from that and remake them, and just extraordinary. But with that, the lotus form again, then I've got 4 pieces that I've been collecting over the last 6 years, but they're incomplete. For this one was so covered in muck that I've begun cleaning it off. And underneath almost looks new, but it's had many years of use. You can see the temple inside has a figure, and you've got the shaman sitting on the outside looking out, birds on the roof of the traditional temple, and then this lotus top again and lotus bottom. It's only when you start repeating the objects that you really can read the symbolism. So again, you've got, I'm very tempted to try and make another 2 pieces. You've got tigers, a shaman figure in the door, a Shiva Lingam in this one, in the middle, shaman figure on the back, the traditional temple, and then this, what would have been this, that snapped off on the corner. So a sort of 5-piece oil lamp, and with the 4 directions again, and with the lotus bottom. So the Magar people are a mixture of they're primarily shamanic, but they came from Tibet originally, so there's a strong Buddhist overlay, and also a sort of Hindu overlay as well with Shiva. So again, another one of these pieces, and you can see this one, it's lost, it's broken off on the edge, because they're very old. All these are cast in bronze and then made with the lost wax technique, so they'd have made the pieces. If I pull that off, you can see inside is a god figure, and then when you put it in, the god appears in the temple, and that also rests on top. So, and with a lotus again, and the birds on each corner. And another one that would unscrew as well, with the temple, again with the birds on the roof. Sometimes these are crows, and sometimes peacocks. Again with a big Shiva Lingam on the inside. Tiled roofs. It's really, this one has got a lot of corrosion from hundreds of years of use, but you can see even the tiles formed in there, and then these lovely little decorations where it's now lost most of the decoration, and it would have had the pieces like this resting around, but smaller than that. You'd have that on all the sides. So, and with the sort of lotus top again, And then just following the theme around, this piece is absolutely extraordinary. It's hard to know whether it had a bell element to it at one point, but you can see the same symbolism of the temple. With the, see, the thing that made me wonder if it had once had bells, because you've got these loops that don't appear to have any use, and you've got shaman figures with guns all the way around. So 4 figures with guns at the bottom, either side of the temple, a type of a lotus form on the top, and then turning into a lotus, and then praying figures all the way around the outside, with tigers at the 4 corners, and a second row of archers, these praying shaman figures. So again, this is something that came to me fairly recently, and it's one of the nicest pieces I've ever had, and really, really useful, because when you have a piece like this, suddenly all the other information clicks into place in a sort of more refined form. You can suddenly read another layer to the symbolism. So I really like the idea that the fire is burning from the lotus, and that the light, the whole idea of the lotus coming up out of the mud and representing enlightenment, and that the actual lamp itself is a lotus, is just wonderful. It's very tricky getting your arms in here. To another 5-sided one, again with I would think that is probably, because this is sort of tapering and a bit like a stupa, I think that may now be like the door of a temple, and with the trident at the top. Just extraordinary. This piece is very interesting, because you've got a female shaman carrying these 5 offerings, and I don't know what they are. It's quite hard to read what the 5 are, but that would have a very particular meaning. And with the birds again pointing outside, it's really, really interesting. And you can see here you've got 4 sides like a Vajra, and then the 5 bells, and then the shaman praying with a sort of a lamp, a little shaman like a figure, and a mini tiger, and then hanging down bells. I'm not sure what that shape is. Very, very interesting. And then with an oil lamp at the top again. Yeah, it just fits. It's not fixed, it's just screwed in, just rammed in. Absolutely extraordinary. So sculptural. I absolutely love the sculptural element. My background is as an artist, as a painter and sculptor, and so I really relate to the objects. This is very interesting. It's an oil lamp, cast in bronze again, built with the lost wax process. You've got nagas up the back, and you've got this overall shape, which is very interesting, with the big nagas coming up here, naga head on here, a shaman figure with probably it's hard to see because it's 2-pronged, but it maybe it was meant to be a trishul. It's very, very worn, and with praying figures either side, in the sort of arch which is like the tam again, and just extraordinary. Even this has something about it which is a bit human, a bit like a head and an arms. Just very, very special. Really, really unbelievably beautiful. I feel really lucky and blessed to have such amazing things. And then this figure always had a slightly spooky feel to it, but is sort of wonderful as well. It's very heavy, cast where they poured the metal in from underneath. I don't know if the camera can get in there. And it's got like horsetail or something stuck to his head. Very simple. And then in this sort of temple where I think it's probably cast aluminium. Really very nice. Very, very simple. And you can see where they've beaten it afterwards to and then these pieces are forged and then hand hammered over, and that's forged, and then this has probably been poured and then beaten afterwards. Just so sculptural. So what's really interesting here is you can see there's a repetition of symbolism between the temples, the temple inside, the sort of lotus bud, the lotus bud here, the flame as offering, the offering top with offerings in it, the five-sided bells, which are, and with the birds at the top in the same way as the birds are on the temple, the little sort of lozenge shaped, which are the same shape as a bud. The idea of the flame of enlightenment, the light of the lotus coming out of the mud, actually being a flame. The shaman looking into the four directions. The bell is the activating principle, the sound, and Shiva is often connected to sound because he's in such deep meditation that you need to call in a loud way. The teacher, Ganesh as a teacher, carrying a temple, carrying the wisdom on his back as a wisdom keeper, repeated in two different forms now, with the shaman on each corner with different devices, and the guru or shaman figure in the centre of the temple with the tridents on each corner. The same theme picked up again with the cat riding the elephant, and with Ganesh as the teacher in the middle, with reading and various other symbols in their hands, bells, lotus, conch, book, sword, lamp, and with a light as well. So the light being the activating principle. The temple again with the as the body of the light. Absolutely just truly inspiring objects, amazingly sculptural objects. This makes me wonder whether perhaps there would be a figure that would rest inside this. And again you've got the sort of bud and the lotus, and they're protecting as well. You've got the idea of protection because of the guns and the sagas all pointing out, and the praying. So the idea of emanation out from a central point. The bell, almost as like a stupa, the same shape as a stupa, but with the trident on the top. The bell with temple. So these things open up a lot of questions. So it's like, what does it mean when there's a light on the top of a bell? What does it mean when the bell is also carrying the temple? Because the bell is carrying the temple and the elephant is carrying the temple, and Ganesh is in the center, the Shiva lingam is in the center. So you get these repetition of symbolism, which then enrich your whole the meaning. It enriches the way that you think about these objects, and these are tools for doing something. They're tools for reaching another world, and for helping you enter that reality. So there's something for deep contemplation as well as for practical use, and it's through the practice that you really feel them and find their reality. So I hope that was interesting and useful. Do subscribe to the channel, and do let me know if there's any other videos you'd be interested in, and leave comments and questions. And I'm making a whole series of videos at the moment on shamanism and on ritual symbolism, and trying to sort of dig into the way that symbolic language works, the way it relates to the unconscious, the way it helps us integrate those archetypal qualities within ourselves. So this is part of an ongoing series. Thank you very much, and do subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you.